Good afternoon, Britannia, and hello to the rest of the world. Welcome to 2CTV and today's budget announcement. Rachel Reeves, the new chancellor, is about to announce the first socialist budget of this country in 14 years. The Labour supporters are extremely excited and happy. They're all looking forward to the new measures and tax rises and everything else. But at the same time, a lot of people in the country are terrified, from pensioners, students, to small business owners and sole traders, and even those on lower income. Over the next couple of minutes, we are expecting any moment, actually, Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, to stand up in the House of Commons to make the budget announcement. And on this live stream, we're going to go through all the details as it comes in live. Before we start, look at the portrait behind Rachel Reeves. That used to be Nigel Lawson, the best chancellor, one of the best chancellors the UK has ever had. It's been replaced with a portrait of Ellen Wilkinson, the one of the founders of the Communist Party of Great Britain. So we have an actual communist portrait in Downing Street, thanks to this new socialist cabinet. So we're going to talk about all that later on today, why Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer have issues with those who actually respect the Western values and British culture, and they are bringing in more communism. But for now, we're going to focus on the budget, and we will get your reaction live as usual, as well as we await the announcement over the next few seconds. I think, yes, we now have the Chancellor of the Exchequer standing up in the House of Commons to make the announcement. The OBR, the Officer for Budget Responsibility, has already reported that there's a £22 billion black hole that could be featured in the speech. Seems like they have no desire to actually fix the problems. They just want it to be causing more problems in this country. Before we begin, I'm just gonna quickly get some of your reactions. To be fair, before we started, we had a question from Richard Tice at Prime Minister's Questions, asking if the police should put out more information sooner in terror incidents to prevent an information gap. This is in regards to what happened yesterday when the police made the announcement that the Southport attacker has actually been charged under the Terrorism Act because of his links to Al-Qaeda. Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's double check. We still have the Deputy Speaker speaking for some reason. Just because you're a speaker doesn't mean you have to speak all the time. Do we have any reaction? We already have someone, Hamsley, in the live chat saying, I expect mass protests after the ridiculous budget announcement. There are already protests outside Parliament as we speak. Protests organised by both the right and the left, because the more hard left communists are not happy because they want this budget to be even more left wing. We haven't actually even heard the budget yet, but the communists are already angry. The political right are also out there. The think tank Taxpayers Alliance have a van driving around Parliament, showing the state of the national debt in this country to raise awareness. All right, so we now have Rachel Reeves finally making the announcement. We will keep you guys posted over the next few minutes to find out what sort of measures we are now expecting. God help us all, ladies and gentlemen, in this kingdom. So obviously we are expecting tax rises. We are expecting more controlled measures on your day-to-day life. The government being able to obviously manage everything, micromanage everything in order to tell you how you should live your life rather than you deciding for yourself, because we're not America. We need politicians to tell us how we should live our lives. There's going to be some budget cuts as well, because there's no money in the government budget to actually be able to fund everything. At the same time, illegal migrants that are coming in, £41,000 a year on top of that, per migrant, by the way. And also at the same time, fund the foreign aid budget and send money to the UN agencies linked to Hamas. We need all that money, apparently. So there's going to be tax rises as well as budget cuts and extra borrowing as well. The borrowing is completely scandalous because the younger generation will be massively hit over the next few decades. So those pensioners who are suffering right now, what everybody needs to realize is that the pensioners of the future in a few decades, they will be in a much worse situation than even the current ones, and the current ones are already suffering anyway. It's just going to get worse and worse unless somebody says enough and actually make a U-turn on the whole economic consensus that's been going around. There was a gap. Essentially what we have is that there's a post-war consensus since the 40s and 50s that bankrupted the West. Then Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan changed it, brought back prosperity. Then when Reagan and Thatcher went, we went back to the post-war consensus. So more tax rises, more socialism, more government telling you what to do. But it's okay because you'll be dependent on the government. And then you like the government because they will give you free things. Free milk, free bus passes, free cash for no reason. But then we'll go bankrupt. So they're going to take away the bus passes. They're going to take away the free license fee and everything else. That is a cycle of doom, basically, which never works, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So Rachel Reeves saying that we must turn the page on the last 14 years. That's literally by default because we now have a socialist government in place, replacing a liberal government. Obviously, we've had 14 years of liberal government under the Tories. That didn't really go well fully. The first few years was okay, especially around 2014, 2015 was okay. But Tories' liberal policies made some issues, created a lot of issues. But now, Labour's socialist policies are going to make things even more radical. They have already indicated they will be introducing double taxes. So that depends on what it is, essentially. So we tax everything in this country, in the UK. Even if you breathe air, you have to get taxed. So I'm guessing they're going to now tax air. So if you breathe air, you'll be double taxed. All right. Rachel Reeves has already said that the country voted for change on the 4th of July. That is a little bit misleading, ladies and gentlemen, because the country did not vote for change. Only 20% of the population in the United Kingdom proactively voted for the Labour Party, and not the majority, and not even close to 50%. So there was no consensus in the public for a vote for Labour's change, essentially. The first minute or so is simply just about her political speech. Now we're going to be getting to the actual economic policies. So while we wait for that, let's get some more reaction from you guys. Angus, thank you very much, from Australia. Deba says that no foreign flags means no Israel flags either. Well, that's true. I don't know what the context is. Andrew Tate would be a better chancellor. That would be a terrible idea. Paddy says economic apocalypse are coming to a country near you, apart from Argentina and El Salvador and the United States of America. All right, let's get back to the main show. It's going to kick off now. It's happening. I am guessing the first part of the speech, as usual, will be about the economic update. They're going to play around with GDP numbers as usual to make it seem exciting, even though it's completely irrelevant to how you feel in your pockets, and your home budget is irrelevant to what the politicians are telling you about the state of the economy. There's another reaction while we wait for the first policy to be announced. Rogue Trooper says taxation is theft. True story, Rogue Trooper. Facts. But it is now the consensus. I still blame the French. Income tax was introduced to fund the war with France, and then it just stayed for no reason. We didn't have a concept of income tax until now, until obviously war with France. And now apparently you can't even think about removing income tax, let alone talk about it. Right. The Chancellor is now saying that the Conservatives, this is absolutely hilarious. The Conservatives' austerity broke the NHS. So the Conservative parties, the Conservative government's mismanagement of the top of the NHS is the reason the NHS is in a mess. The NHS management is the main reason the NHS is in a mess, because it's always been in a mess, despite the propaganda. So for about 14 years under the Labour government, because the Labour Party had the media in their pockets, they were going around saying, look, the NHS is perfect. It wasn't perfect. It was a mess. Nobody in the world wanted to copy our model. But when the Tories came into power, it did get worse eventually because of the Tories, not because of austerity, but because of mismanagement. Austerity is a word that's been misused since 2010 because it sounds mean and harsh. I'm pretty sure if you go around the country, the majority don't even know the definition, which is to simply balance the budget to make sure that you are not spending more than you have. So that also includes, yes, cutting waste in a government budget. The problem is, if you go too far and cut the frontline services, public services, it's going to have a massive impact on the economy and the well-being of the country. The Tories did that the first couple of years, not fully, partly, and that was still damaging. Politically, it was more damaging than actually economically. But Rachel Reeves saying we're attacking Tories' austerity, she herself is doing austerity. The definition of the word austerity. So she's going to be making cuts, and she's going to be borrowing money, and she's going to be raising taxes. So both parties are doing the same thing. It's just about the degree of how much more. According to the Chancellor, the only way to drive economic growth is to invest. It's like she's talking to primary school kids. We have idiots running our politics. All right. She says Labour rebuilt our country out of the rubble of the Second World War. She's talking about the post-war consensus. For the record, in case you're not familiar with history, after the 40s and 50s, the policies that were implemented in the United Kingdom led to the country almost going bankrupt in the 70s. That was chaotic. We had more issues in the 60s created by those policies, and people lost more money, more people went bankrupt, and more people went unemployed, more people went on strikes. It was not a good situation, but it was a nice plaster on the wound. So in the 50s, they started using tax money to build things, including hospitals, and then eventually they ran out of money. Then they took all the credits. All right, so I think we are about to get the first policy announcement. She's now currently attacking the Tories. She's basically the first almost 15 minutes, 13 minutes of the speech is political, ladies and gentlemen. We don't usually expect the chancellors, when they make the budget announcement, to start the first 10-15 minutes by just doing political speech. Her job is to give us the economic situation and the policies for the country. So far, Rachel Reeves is doing a political rant, hence why the delay in terms of the policy announcements. She's made a vow, ladies and gentlemen. Rachel Reeves has made a vow to invest. By invest, they mean spending, by the way. By invest, they mean take your taxes, and borrow money from international banks and print more money to put the money back in the country, instead of not taking your money in the first place. But they could call it investment, and it sounds sexy because some people will fall for it. They're like, that's good, they're investing in my local area. Yeah, but they took your money, you idiot. All right, I think, are we finally going to have the first announcement? She is still making a political speech. Okay, that's lovely. This is just terrible. Absolutely terrible. She's now talking about the 22 billion black hole. It's so annoying. She's so irritating, right? Alright. Someone says what time is PM? Someone says what time is PMQs on? Is Starmer going? That was 45 minutes ago. The Prime Minister's questions at 12 p.m. on Wednesday. So they did a PMQs, and straight afterwards, Rachel Reeves stood up. By the way, you might be thinking you're watching this live, but it's about 30-second delay. So you might be getting if you're watching Sky News at the same time, you'll get the first announcement, then I'll announce it. So there's a bit of a delay. All right, so she's now attacking the Tories' record, including Liz Truss. Now she's made the first announcement: £1.8 billion for the victims of the Post Office scandal. All right, so this is this had to be done anyway. This was a good announcement the Tories were going to be doing. Billions. 1 point. Hang on. So we're going to be putting all this here for you guys so you could also see the first budget announcement. Sorry about this. There we go. 1.8 billion pounds for yes, and then we have more coming. 11. Oh wow. Okay. The next 11.8 billion pounds will be provided to compensate those infected and affected by the blood scandal. As you guys remember, this was an ongoing situation. So what Rachel Reeves so far is doing, the first 10-15 minutes was a political speech instead of an actual economic speech. And now, this is quite smart what they're doing. They are making policy announcements, but they are still political. So these are important things that had to be done. Absolutely. But she's starting with this. She's starting with the good news so that people go, Also, 1.8 billion for the victims, and now 11.8. So there's still going to be a lot of people who are like, do we have the money if we're going to spend on other things too? But she's starting to give some good news to those people, to say, like the early release prisoners. Over the last few weeks, we've released a lot of prisoners, right? Early from prison. And all those criminals came out of prison saying, we love Keir Starmer, we're going to vote Labour now. So that this is the same idea that they have. While obviously compensation should have happened anyway, there is a question to be made in terms of why and the amount as well. Right, more updates is coming and more announcements. This is going to get fast now because they're just going to be making... she's raising taxes. Tax rises have now been confirmed. The first tax rises will aim to raise 40. Okay. How is this gonna... Is that 40 billion? 40 billion pounds tax rises. This is gonna backfire massively on Labour, ladies and gentlemen. So what they're doing, Rachel Reeves or Rachel Thieves, this is gonna hit a lot of people, the working class people, right? Regardless of how you raise the tax, it always hits the bottom. So even if you, for example, tax the businesses or national insurance employers, the cost will go to the working class consumers because they are the ones who have to spend money. And obviously will get trickled down to the bottom. This will hit their pocket more than now, but it's not enough, not even close enough to cover everything else. There is going to be much more spending than even 40 billion pounds. It's going to be a lot of money. More announcements coming in. Yep, first socialist budget in 14 years. Big tax rises already confirmed. She's now making a promise to, again, it's the same phrasing, but just differently, to invest and put more money in people's pockets. There's no logic into this because firstly, invest means government spending your tax money. So they're taking your tax money to then spend it on you, give it back to you, a little bit of it. So this is just complete scam. The whole government is a scam. more announcements, I believe, is coming. She's now ranting about economic growth. You can't have economic growth with these tax rises. Who teaches these people about economics? That's very fascinating, by the way. Absolutely fascinating. Right. Okay. Let's go back to... Still talking about the post office. That's lovely. While we wait for that, let's get some reaction here. Where is the... Ah, there we go. Stevie says, how on earth do these people get a job in Parliament? By getting votes from people who don't actually do research. They could not run a bath. Labour blame the Tories, but have no clue on stimulating the economy. Exactly. They're just going to print more money. Keep an eye on the stock market. Yeah, it's going to backfire. So what they're going to do is, because they have the backing of the OBR and the Bank of England and the IMF, everything's going to be stabilized, but your lives will be completely ruined. But it's okay, because the globalist entities will be happy and satisfied. So when the establishment is happy, that includes the Bank of England, that includes the IMF and the United Nations and all the international entities. When they are satisfied with something, it tends to actually hurt the population. But when the population are angry or suffering, the other way around, but if the population are actually happy about their lives and policies, the international entities will have a meltdown. We had this under Reagan and Thatcher. We had this under... Liz Truss wasn't even able to implement her policy. She just made the speech, she made an announcement. She was forced to resign. The Labour government obviously taking advantage of that, saying Liz Truss crashed the economy. She didn't, because she just made the speech. She didn't actually implement the budget. They made a U-turn. She lost her job. But that's what they do. They are like the mafia. The whole system is like the mafia. If you go against the system, they're going to come for you. Just ask JFK. Right, we now have the forecast, ladies and gentlemen, for GDP growth, which is, by the way, you can ignore it because it's just GDP growth. 20... Alright, let's just give you guys the actual numbers. This is going to be a complete stupidity. Alright. We have from 2024, 2025, until 2029. Let's get ready for this. There we go. Right. These are the OBR growth forecast for the next few years. This is just embarrassing numbers. This is so bad. Okay. Well, oh, wow. Oh, God. Borrowing has been confirmed this year. 127. Right. Let's put this in as well. These are basic stuff that these idiots don't care about. None of them, neither party. Borrowing 127 billion pounds. This is going to be your children and your grandchildren. This is not even the total debt, by the way. In case you don't know, the current national debt is rising by £5,170 per second. £5,170 per second is going up. It's currently at where is it gone? Yeah, £3 trillion. Almost, yeah, £3 trillion. Okay. Just get more reaction from this. Interesting that she started by giving the some good news about compensations to keep some people happy, but then she's now gone straight to the bad news, which is the borrowing and tax rises. That's huge, absolutely huge. All right, while we wait for the next policy, she's making a political speech again, as usual. What is wrong with these chancellors? If you're not familiar, just go and read the old school chancellors decades ago, right? Especially about 100 years ago. Read them, or you could listen to them on a online radio segment. They didn't have political speeches. A chancellor's job is not politics. Labour equals illusion to cover people's eyes. Leo says, we all need to go on strike the only way. Not going to do much, really. I think Labour need to do a basic maths course. It will help them. I mean, this is not going to be fixing anything, really. We had the same problem, again, whether it was the liberal policies coming from the previous government, the Tories, or now socialist policies coming from Labour. They both have this issue of going with the virus that's been going around for about 100 years. Keynesianism. Maynard Keynes, the man who single-handedly ruined the whole future of the West, at least one of the people responsible for this. They infiltrated the whole system, and they created the IMF and all the globalist entities. If you haven't seen The Rise of Globalism on 2CTV+, go check it out. The link is in the description, because we explain all that. But they also bought out the media, the papers, and academia. They have all the teachers and professors and lecturers. If you go to university and study economics, they tell you about Keynes as the main economic lesson. The man was not even an economist. He was a politico pretending to be an economist. All right, so every government department to make cuts of 2% by 2025. So this is basically what the Tories were doing anyway, back in 2010. This is so bad. I mean, the hypocrisy of how is this going to be actually helping anybody? So, all right, so I'm just going to put this on the screen for you guys so you are aware of what sort of idiocy we're dealing with this government. Minimum wage for over 21s is also going up. Okay, fine. 2%. Cut. So Rachel Reeves started her speech by attacking the Tories' austerity policies, right, in 2010, which was to cut a couple of percent from each government department. She's now announced that the Labour government will be making 2% budget cuts per department. Same thing as the Tories. But on top of that, they're increasing taxes and borrowing more money. All right, so we have more announcements for you guys now. This is going to give me a headache. Minimum wage has gone up. Yep. Okay. Where is the... Yep, we have this now. Sorry about this. It's just a complete mess on the screen. Right. The minimum wage will be increased by 6.7% to £12.21. Well, for those aged 18 to 20, will get a 16.3% bump to £10 an hour. Whoa. Okay. Good luck, small businesses. £10 for children, teenagers. All right. Okay, that's going to be interesting. We have the weekly earnings limits. Is it going up? Yeah, it's going up. Okay. There we go. The weekly earning limits for carers allowance has been raised to equivalent of 16 hours at the national living wage per week. Okay. There is, I believe there was something about COVID corruption. Oh my God. We have a new announcement regarding the China virus. They have created yet another bureaucratic body. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to forgive me for about 30 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, apologies for this. There is a bit of a situation. I will explain. Let's just quickly give you the latest one. Actually, no new policy, actually. I'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, apologies for this situation. We are going to come back shortly and continue the updates. I'm going to give a whole list of all the policies. Apologies. I'll see you guys in a few minutes.